Throughout your day, there are fleeting moments when darkness envelops you, if only for a split second, not the blink of an eye, but those brief instances when you're changing clothes or wiping your face with a towel. Have you ever stopped to wonder what lurks in those moments of obscurity? The truth is, every time you're plunged into darkness, you're unwittingly playing a game of roulette with something sinister eagerly awaiting to pull you into its depths. But fear not, for we're just getting started. From the bone-chilling tale of Akhenaten, which will leave you hesitant to visit the bathroom alone, to the spine-tingling legend of the Pinky creature, guaranteed to make you think twice before venturing into the woods again. We present to you the 10 most infamous urban legends of all time. We begin our first story in the bathroom, a seemingly popular place for urban legends. Akhenaten is a male spirit who dons a red cloak and a mask and is said to haunt school and public restrooms with a particular fondness for the last stall in the women's bathroom. Once you are seated in the stall, you will hear a male voice ask you if you want red or blue paper. Choose your words carefully. If you say red paper, you will meet a bloody end. And if you say blue paper, you will be suffocated to death until you are blue. If you try to confuse a spirit by asking for a different colored paper, you will be dragged into hell. To avoid a brutal end at Akhenaten's hand, simply refuse his offer and run. Well, running may probably save you from Akhenaten's hand, but certainly not from the villain of our next story. In Nigeria, Madam Koi Koi was depicted as a stylish teacher in a secondary school known for her beauty and her red heels. Whenever she walked the halls, her shoes would make the sound koi, koi, which is where the name Madam Koi Koi originated. It was also said that she was very harsh with the students and would beat them for no reason. She was fired when she slapped a female student and injured her ear. On her journey back home, she was involved in an accident and died. Before her death, she swore to have her revenge on the school and its students. Not long after, the students of the secondary school claimed that at night they would hear a koi, koi sound in the hallways of their dormitories after lights out, almost like the clicking of heels on the floor. Legend has it that it's safest to remain in your room after lights out, because if you encounter her, no matter how fast you run, you can't outrun her. That is the origin of Madam Koi Koi, the most famous urban legend in Nigeria. Speaking of origins, did you know the origin of the famous Beauty and the Beast? In the 1500s, a man named Petrus Gonçalves, a native of the Canary Islands, was born with a rare condition that we now know as hypertrichosis, or werewolf syndrome. The condition produces excessive hair growth all over the body, including the face. Hair completely covered Petrus, and people treated him like an animal. They even kept him in a cage and fed him raw meat. At 10 years old, he was presented as a gift to the new king of France, Henry II. The king wanted to tame the savage and decided to give the boy a proper education. Seeing that Petrus was intelligent, he became very fond of the boy and stopped treating him like an animal, making him a noble. Petrus married a beautiful woman at the court. They had children together, and all ended happily ever after. However, not all urban legends end happily ever after, and you're about to find out why. In Africa, the legendary Zambezi river god Nyame Nyame is a dragon-like creature believed to command all life in and on the mighty Zambezi River, the fourth largest river system on the continent. According to one fable, the Karaba Dam project, started in 1956, shattered the peaceful existence of the Batanga people who lived in the Zambezi Valley for hundreds of years. Asked to relocate, the Batanga were certain that the Nyame Nyame wouldn't allow the dam to be built. Barely a year after the project began, a severe flood struck, killing several workers and destroying the partially built dam. For 3 days, relatives waited in vain for human remains to be recovered. Finally, the elders of the tribe explained that only a sacrifice would appease Yamin Yami's displeasure. At this, a calf was slaughtered and placed in the water. The next day, the bodies of the workers were found in its place. The dam was finished in 1977. While the thought of drowning in an African river is undeniably frightening, however, if we're being honest, it's not as scary as being buried, alive. You may have heard of a few cases where people, being mistaken for dead, were accidentally buried alive. Stories of supposed corpses heard screaming from underground and excavations that revealed scratch marks on the inside of coffins had haunted us for centuries. The terror of being buried alive was so strong in the Victorian times that bells were set up and attached to dead bodies in case they ever awoke. Some historians even believe the phrase "saved by the bell" comes from this practice. Yet, despite the popularity of these safety coffins, there are no records of anyone actually being saved this way. This doesn't mean the myth of being buried alive is untrue, but it's definitely not as common as we once believed. Even scarier is that people have reported similar instances in modern times. The most recent case of a mistaken death happened in 2020. Peter Kigan, a 32-year-old Kenyan man who was declared dead, woke up in a morgue to staff preparing to embalm and drain the blood from his body. Kigan regained consciousness and began screaming after someone had sliced his leg open. Hospital negligence is assumed to be responsible for this shocking incident. At least we have the hospital to hold responsible for this, but who do you think should be held responsible for the horror in the next tale? The urban legend of giant, often albino alligators living in the sewer system of New York has been passed down through generations, permeated pop culture, and is even commemorated with an unofficial holiday. February 9th is Alligators in the Sewers Day. Legend has it that rich families in the 1930s began keeping alligators as pets, but once they grew bored of them or found the fully grown alligators too difficult to manage, they flushed them down the toilet. It's believed that a large colony of sewer alligators has been terrorizing the sewers ever since. While alligators are indeed sold as pets and have been found in storm drains and surrounding rivers, the multiple tales of sightings and captures have continued to fuel this legend over the years. As for the reptiles living and thriving in the sewers, well, it turns out it's not particularly feasible. You see, the environment would be too cold and toxic for alligators to survive for very long. One of the most famous urban legends is the myth of Bloody Mary. Go into a room, turn out the lights, and look into a mirror while saying her name 3 times. Your girl Mary will then appear. In the earliest versions of this tale, the story goes that an unwed woman would see the face of the man she'd marry in the glass. However, if she were destined to die alone, she'd see a skull. The story eventually evolved into something more sinister, where participants would see the bloody face of the evil spirit. Do you dare summon her? If you've watched enough horror movies, you've likely encountered a couple of spooky dolls like Chucky or Annabelle. The creepy legend of a beloved toy becoming possessed is enough to give anyone nightmares. But the next story is definitely too weird to be true, and yet here it is. In 1918, in Hokkaido, Japan, a young boy bought a doll for his little sister, Okiku. Both the doll and Okiku looked similar, with an okappa haircut, a bowl cut with straight hair down to the chin. The doll went everywhere the little girl went, so when Okiku tragically died a couple of months later, her family kept the doll as a shrine. They named the doll after her and prayed to it every day. Then, something bizarre happened. The family noticed that the doll's hair was getting longer, growing just as an ordinary person's hair might. Realizing something was very wrong, they gave the doll to Manen-ji Temple in Amawazawa City. Scientists have analyzed the doll's hair and concluded that it is, in fact, real human hair belonging to a child. You can still visit this freaky paranormal phenomenon as the doll is on display in the same temple. But there's a place I'm very sure you won't have the nerve to visit, the ghost of Slaughterhouse Canyon. The story of Slaughterhouse Canyon takes place during the gold rush during the 1800s. There was a family who lived in the canyon. They were very poor, so the father would venture out for food for his family. As you might have guessed, one day the father did not return, so his family slowly starved and descended into madness. The mother, unable to bear listening to her children's cries anymore, put on her wedding dress, murdered her children, and threw them into a nearby river. The next day, she succumbed to starvation herself. The legend states that if you go down to Slaughterhouse Canyon at night, even now, you will hear loud, anguished cries of the mother who lost her mind. If you think that's scary, the last story on our list will make you think twice before wearing a pink cloth. Pinky Pinky is an urban legend in South Africa that has gained attention as a symbol related to the fear and trauma experienced by schoolgirls. It is described as a pink Tokoloshi, a half-human, half-creature being that supposedly resides between the girls' and boys' toilets at school. The creature is said to have one claw and one paw, and it threatens to assault little girls who wear the color pink. Sightings of Pinky Pinky often occur in places where young girls are likely to be alone, such as school toilets or the edge of rural woods. Pinky Pinky is a terrifying figure that frequently appears in nightmares and is occasionally mentioned in reports of sexual abuse. Some authorities, both pre- and post-apartheid, have taken reported sightings of Pinky Pinky seriously, leading to school closures and police investigations. If encountered, Pinky Pinky's face appears human but molted, bald, and unpleasant. If someone looks directly at the creature, its features blur, leaving only two pink-colored eyes visible. Alleged victims claim that Pinky Pinky attempts to corner girls, speaking to them with a musical woman's voice and asking them to play or be friends with it. Legend has it that even to this day, people, especially foreigners, still encounter Pinky Pinky in the woods and school toilets. Just kidding, that got you right. We have loads of other content that will scare the living daylights out of you. Just hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any opportunity to witness a tale that will keep you frozen with fear at night. Until next time we meet, if you've got the nerve, watch our videos at night.